Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cop Blast Podcast. As always, this is Matthew Taylor of Carbon County Cop Block.
I am Scott Marshall of the Oath Accountability Project.
And I'm Bill Godin. How you doing?
So, honestly, we were having just conversations prior to coming into here, and there's a lot of stuff it seems like we had to talk about, and nothing that we really honed in on. So I say we just kind of continue the conversations that we were having prior to coming on, because we were having some good ones. And I know one of the things that we had just started to touch on before we went live was false flags. We had talked about, we had brought up Sandy Hook. I know 9/11 was thrown out there. I know it wasn't said before, but another one I'd like to bring up would be like the Boston bombing. I thoroughly believe that's another false flag. How about you, Scott?
I'd even go as far as the London bombing too.
Well, Paris attack with the gunman who supposedly shot that cop, but
Well, I just want to say, anytime that you see some sort of large scale drills going on, get the fuck away. Get the fuck.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's not going to end well.
I mean, even you could look at some even minor things like, well, not minor, but the shooting at the bus station in Richmond. I mean, that was directly after a drill. Like it was, they described it as a drill going live. Like,
yeah.
How does that happen? How does it go live? Like they already had that little snippet ready to go.
Yeah.
It helps in emergency response, that's for sure.
Yeah, but just over the last couple of years, we've seen some really ridiculous stuff. Like Scott, I think you just said the some stuff down in Virginia. How about the news anchor that was supposedly just shot right on the news there, but all the stuff that kept coming out just kept showing a timeline that made zero sense.
Right. I saw that too.
What do you call it? The Facebook posts that were just totally in the wrong time frame.
Wrong order.
Yeah, you see this stuff and none of it makes sense a lot.
And a lot of it is social media too. You saw with the Sandy Hook thing. I mean, none of the Sandy Hook. There was a Facebook page for the victims of Sandy Hook that was created the day before Sandy Hook. I mean,
right?
Really?
Or let's just talk about the fact that all the big terrorist attacks, or not terrorist attacks, but big false flags that have happened in the last couple of years, all tend to have like the same crisis actors that show up. I mean, there's memes that go around Facebook that show the same woman at some of these events. She was at Sandy Hook, she was at the Boston bombing, she was she was at one of the Paris attacks, things like that. Kids that were supposedly who had passed away in Sandy Hook, years later showing up on memorial walls across the world at different on their memorial wall for kids who were killed over in Pakistan.
And also even some of the kids who were supposedly killed. I mean, you see them in a Christmas photo. Mm-hmm. I mean, months after this happened.
Right.
And with the president, nonetheless. I mean,
yep.
It's boggling.
You would think that some of these people, this is their job. It's their job to sell bullshit, to sway the whatever agenda is supposed to be, achieved by this. And when you're using people as victims in the same and in all your events, where do you think that America's not going to tune in and nobody's not going to notice, oh, this chick happened to be at the last 3 major events that happened where people lost their lives on a national, on a large scale that turns into a big national outcry.
I think the people who have that agenda, they're counting on the grief. You're not noticing that. You're looking at the bigger picture. You're looking at that building, smoke. You're not listening to the guy who they're interviewing. And so, whoa, he looks familiar. Why does he look familiar? Is he my neighbor? No, I don't think so. You saw him 6 months ago in a mass shooting, and they interviewed him for that too. Well, he's got to get some kick-ass airline miles. Well, he's getting around.
I mean, he's got to have some bar stories.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I want to sit next to him.
But at the same time, too, you got to think that it's actually, as much as you think it might be or as much as I might think it might be retarded of them to use that and to do that, at the same time, I can see why they do.
I see it just as the news does for the same exact reason. They're using that familiar face to drive home a point. That's my view on it.
My view is a little different. There's always going to be people who read into it and see it for what it is. So if you give them a jumping point and they start going off, enough people are going to think that it's real. So of course they're just going to be all conspiracy theorists. And the second somebody says conspiracy theorist, 90% of people tune out.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
If you give them a reason to actually sound like one, people tune out. And the only really big thing that has happened in the last, 20 years that people say conspiracy theorists, and a lot more people turn around and go, you know what? Yeah, you make a point, is 9/11. Because 9/11 is that one where it did open up a lot more eyes to things. Because after, especially now, so far removed from the incident, and so much has come out, and you've seen so much dodging of the truth, all the way down to the 9/11 Commission. Just everything has purposely swayed you from the truth. Enough people have looked at it to go, yeah, okay, this is a bullshit story.
Well, and initially you didn't have that reaction. It's like, no, you can't do that. You can't talk about it. Look what happened. Terrorists. And you put that little bit of, okay, here's the research I've done, and it does make sense. I mean, the research is there. Okay, the facts are in place. It's just your ability to, hey, maybe the government is hiding something. Maybe there's a reason for it, and you become maybe not believable totally to the public, but you become less of a joke.
Right.
Well, I think the word conspiracy, like as soon as you say conspiracy, like you said, people just their eyes glaze over. But if you actually look up the definition of the word conspiracy, okay, when somebody says conspiracy theory, they just think of somebody that thinks that something crazy happened. But if you actually break down the word conspiracy, it's a plan by two or more people to do illegal or immoral acts.
Right.
That's what a conspiracy is. So you just have a theory that two or more people got together and said, yeah, I mean, 9/11 absolutely was a conspiracy. Even if you follow the original narrative, I mean,
it's 19 hijackers.
Yeah. I mean, it absolutely is a conspiracy. So to just say, oh, well, I mean, every possible narrative that you could have for 9/11 is a conspiracy. So you just, the words have been used to demonize people who, question.
You get that negative connotation from it, and people run with that, and they look at you a little bit differently. I mean, I've written some articles and such for that reason, and the more facts, and I never try to espouse, okay, this is the God's honest truth. This is what happened. No, I just want people to look at the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Use your own head. If something doesn't make sense, have the guts. Hey, you know what? That doesn't make sense. Now I want you to do the research.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you would think that after this long, there's enough out there that nobody would even have to open their mouth to try to convince anybody anymore. Just look. The second you start looking yourself, there's enough information out there that honestly, it paints the picture of what really went down. I mean, just the fact that, let's just take it from an engineering aspect. Things don't fall straight down. It just does not happen, or the fact that, for the first time in the history of the world, buildings fell for an office fire,
3 times in one day.
Yeah. Never before, but 3 times in one day. Whoof.
Yeah.
So
right down among themselves.
Or the fact that even if you start really going into it, like the BBC announced that that building 7
had already fell.
Fell 28 minutes before it fell. It's in the shot behind them.
Or the fact that even you look in and somebody from Underwriters Laboratory. Now, anybody who knows Underwriters Laboratory, look at the bottom of any electronics or anything. You'll see that UL. And they certify electronics. They do all kinds of certifications to make sure that people are, are putting out products that they say that they are.
Right.
So Underwriters Laboratories actually certified the steel beams that were used in the towers. The steel, the actual steel, they certified it and said that not only can this steel withstand, a certain temperature, it's actually stronger. We have stronger steel for this tower. So
Right.
it was even higher than the melting point of regular steel. And the guy that pointed this out after NIST came out and was like, yeah, fire brought it down. He was like, no, that's not possible. He was fired within a week, He wrote the letter to Congress and said, no, that's not.
Well, you had the owner of, or the leasee of the World Trade Center. And he actually, Larry Silverstein, comes on the air and says it. Listen, we decided to bring down Building 7.
Yeah.
Okay, the owner says this. We decided to do it. It's planned. Now, if that's planned, and the government narrative is that it fell because of impacts, because of the other buildings falling, and the owner's out there saying it, I mean, you have to start questioning everything else then.
Well, I mean, not even to start bringing up the fact that the insurance policies that were pulled on the buildings, that paid out billions.
Oh, and he was turned down when he wanted to double it.
Yep. Or the fact of how much money was underneath the trade centers that just went missing.
Gold.
Or let's just go into the fact that you have New York firefighters talking about how 2 weeks after the buildings come down, they're moving things and they're still finding molten steel
In pools,
in
like a
pools.
foundry.
Yeah, but an office fire, no matter how hot this will ever get, is not hot enough to even to melt.
To melt steel initially.
To even mess with its structural integrity, let alone turn it into molten steel. Or the fact that the independent studies that found, military grade thermite,
Actually, it was thermate.
Thermate.
Yeah, the military actually is the sole patent owner on thermate, which is a variation of thermite. It actually burns a little hotter. You have so many eyewitnesses that say, explosions. We even have new video coming out that, hasn't been seen before. I saw something the other day where this lady was videotaping from inside of a tower that was close, and you hear the explosion, you see the camera shake a little bit, and then seconds later the tower falls. So there were explosions happening inside the tower. And, one of the guys that was the maintenance guy, he said that the building was a Class A certified, some type of building to where they couldn't have things inside the building that could pressurize and explode, like propane canisters and kitchens and stuff. They didn't have that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to have explosions inside of a building where, there shouldn't be is, evidence enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like, okay, explosions are kind of telling. Like, the guy who, I could be fucking this all up, but there was, there was one of the founders of Reddit was doing a bunch of research on the government. And, he said that he thought people were fucking with his car and shit. And then when his car crashed, it exploded twice. I mean, that right there, how does a car explode twice? You don't, it's like, you know that in order to have an explosion, you have to have some sort of pressurized vessel. And if in absent of that inside of these buildings, I mean, you have that same guy that I was talking about was in the basement. Mm-hmm. When it blew up, there was an explosion in the basement, and then the plane hit the top of the tower.
It actually blew in the doors.
Yeah, this was two separate events. Like their timing was off or something. It's just, there's so much evidence. How can you turn a blind eye at this point?
Well, at 15 years later, you're still faced with the fact that the government says this is what happened. It happened this way. It happened at this time, and you're still expected, because it's such a traumatic event in human history. You're still expected to believe. I mean, regardless of who caused it, okay? You had over 3,000 people killed.
Yep.
Okay? similar to the numbers in Pearl Harbor.
Right.
And you start talking false flags. You look back then. I mean, the fact that the government may have known that the Japanese were going to bomb their naval base, it's almost guaranteed that they knew.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay. Now that we've talked about some of that kind of stuff, now let's go into some of the more weirder things that there's no way it could have been a coincidence. You're familiar, I'm sure everybody's familiar with the show The X-Files, right?
Absolutely. Great show.
Okay. Well, in 2001, March of 2001, there was a spin-off for some of the characters that were in there, and it was for the Lone Rangers. If you
The
Lone Gunman, that's
yes.
right. There was a spin-off. It aired March 3rd of 2001. It's its pilot episode. Do you know what that's about?
I don't.
Okay, it's actually about the fact that the U.S. government needed to have a reason to continue its military operations overseas inside of the Middle East. So what they did was they took airplanes, they made them into drones, and their plans were to fly them into the World Trade Centers.
Wow.
Now this aired March 3rd, 2001. You know, wait, six months before this actually happens. That's too much of a coincidence for me to overlook.
The plans were actually on the government books since the 60s. Operation Northwoods. I mean, it called for it.
Absolutely.
It called for almost identical.
A lot of the FEMA training manuals had pictures of the Twin Towers on the front, and then them in crosshairs.
Yeah, and let's face it, though. I mean, if you want to bring down the U.S. and you want to bring down a symbol, flying a plane into one of our largest buildings, probably the way to do it.
Especially one of our largest buildings that happens to be our financial center of our entire country. Absolutely.
But then you have to look, okay, the financial, are they really against our money? Why did they pick somewhere else?
You know what? At the other end of the spectrum, there have been people who have turned around and said, if they were trying to fly in and destroy our financial, and everything, realistically, what that would have been a plan to eliminate the debt that is owed in America, because that's where
this was actually one of my theories.
Yeah.
That if we're gonna go with the original narrative, now I've got several theories, they conflict with each other, but with the original narrative that these hijackers flew a plane out, again, I could be wrong, but it's my understanding that in Islam, it's believed that debt is a form of slavery. Now, if these guys were trying to attack our financial structure, could that have been in some sort of roundabout way to try to set us free from slavery? It's one of my many bizarre theories, and I think it probably sounds just as bizarre as the official story.
Nothing quite sounds as bizarre as the official story.
That's very true.
I mean, you can't get more outlandish than some of the details that they tried to shove down your throat. But you had talked about the Lone Gunman spinoff TV show. How about the Millennium? I'm sorry, hold on. It wasn't Millennium? I believe it was. They had done a show about a prayer circle shooting 6 months before Paducah, Kentucky. Shockingly, I believe they used the town of Paducah, Kentucky in the show. I mean, that's just bizarre.
Yeah, and it's just like one of those things where it almost feels like, enough of the wind is caught by somebody, and it sparked the idea of, oh, well, okay, maybe this was something that somebody else was doing fictitiously.
Now, let's not discount the possibility of an all-out coincidence, because there's no way that Edgar Allan Poe could have known about a plot for somebody to be on a boat and get stranded and then have to eat the cabin boy who happened to have the same. It was like this. I don't know if you heard about this.
Yeah.
This is kind of a sidebar, but I don't know if you heard about this. Edgar Allan Poe wrote this book, and it was about these people who got lost at sea, and I forget the cabin boy's name, but pretty much the exact story unfolded in real life, down to the boy's name that they ate. Like, first and last name, like really, really bizarre.
That is odd.
So I'm just saying, just to be well-rounded on this argument, let's not discount, happenstance. But I'm not a big believer in
and witnessing this many coincidences in your own lifetime.
Yeah.
Because some of these are just a little. There's too many of them. You know, if it was one, you know, just one in our lifetime, maybe okay. But when you start looking at the fact that, you know, the San Bernardino shooting, stuff like that, where all these different things are happening, Miami, all that, and there's training operations happening right around the corner that go live, like you said. Too many coincidences. It kind of looks like somebody just took, you know, false flags for dummies, opened it up. It was like, oh, okay, so we have to do this, 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 and this. All right, so we've got the training. Okay, cool. We have our crisis actors. Awesome. Okay, now we need to get our patsy. Awesome. Cool. Let's roll with it. So,
well, you look at Sandy Hook and the bus driver. I believe the bus driver had, or is it the gentleman where the kids were left with? He actually had his Hollywood card. He was actually an actor, and that's a little bizarre that you have an actor living there for like no apparent reason.
Oh yeah,
and that's not brought up. Like it took some research to find that.
Right.
And it's like, oh, hold on. If you're actually going to let us believe that this guy had was a victim of circumstance or put in that situation, not because he was an actor. That doesn't make much sense to me.
Right.
And I mean, I'm not sitting here trying to look for conspiracy theories when kids get shot. Okay,
right.
That's just asinine to me. I mean, tragic, I'm sure. But we're told one thing, and then through the miracle of television, you see something that goes against what the narrative is. And again, with Sandy Hook, it was the gun. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen the footage of the police pulling the gun out of trunk. Well, you can't do that if he shot the gun in the school.
Right.
I don't know how that works.
Exactly. One thing I would like to say real quick before we continue on what we're doing, I want to welcome everybody who is watching live on Oath Accountability, Carbon County Cop Block, and Allentown Cop Block. If you guys have any sort of questions, if you go over to the feed off of Allentown Cop Block and in the comments, write your question.
Well, actually, I'm getting reports that that the Facebook feed is actually not working very well, but the YouTube feed is actually working really well. So if you guys on Facebook can hear me or anything right now, you probably can't. It's probably messed up. But head over to the YouTube feed. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this Facebook feed going if it's not so hot, but apparently the YouTube feed is really good. So hop on over to there.
Yeah, but before that happens, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take our YouTube link and I'm going to throw it in the live cast.
It's our professionalism
that
really makes it count. You know?
It's what we're all about here, guys, is our professionalism. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. You'll see it coming through.
And I just want to give a shout out to our longtime third seat, Rick the Ref, Ricardo Gonzalez. He's having some computer issues over there in Allentown. So hopefully he'll be joining us back soon. But thanks for providing some behind-the-scenes technical help for us, Rick.
Yes.
We couldn't do this show without you.
Absolutely. So,
so while we're at this weird pause, I just want to bring up the Libertarian Party, okay? I've got kind of it's been bugging me lately. Okay. You libertarians and your Libertarian Party, and yes, I'm talking to you, libertarians. The whole point of party politics is for you guys to come together and pick a candidate. And then once you have that candidate and they're nominated, you all push the that's how party politics works. Everybody gets behind one candidate. Now over there in the Democratic Party, you had this issue where you had two candidates that were polar opposites going in the same party, which doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense, going against each other, and then you have this fractional divide. But you're seeing the same thing going on with the Libertarian Party, is a lot of people seem to have this huge problem with Gary Johnson. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but like half of the Libertarians really hate Gary Johnson. Oh, he's misrepresenting. Well, that's what you signed up for when you got into party politics. Yep. That's the point. is when you get a nominee, you either leave the party or you push your nominee. That's what you do. When the Democratic Party chose Hillary Clinton, I switched. My voter registration card now says no affiliation.
Yep.
And I was never a party politic person to begin with, because it's a stupid. You're still in this left-right paradigm, except now you're a left-right middle paradigm, which you're not a Republican, you're not a Democrat, so everybody's just kind of floating towards
independent, which doesn't.
Well,
really
I'd say
good.
they're floating towards the Libertarian Party, because you got Gary Johnson. He's really getting up there, and his face and his name's really getting out there. Especially he does Joe Rogan podcasts and all this. So he's really getting out there. But why would you just sit there and bash the candidate instead of leave the party? Okay, the Libertarian Party did something that you didn't like. Well, if you don't like it, then leave the party. Like that. Like I know I'm talking myself in circles, but that's what you guys are doing. It's the whole point of being in a party. You pick a candidate and you all push together.
Right.
Like that's why parties were formed, so that everybody could unite and push. So you don't
against the wills of George Washington, I might add.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big fan. But.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan. It's a ridiculous concept. So libertarians either pick Gary Johnson or go somewhere else. You know, I'm tired of going on and seeing people that are for liberty and stuff. Like I know a few people in particular that are they're all for freedom, yet they bash Gary Johnson more than any other candidate. It's like, I don't understand. Who would you vote for? And then people are like, well, I'd be able to represent the Libertarian Party better. It's like, well, how many votes did you get? Like, what are you doing?
Well, as we make our way over into the political sort of conversation, I know you were hitting on the libertarians here. Let's jump back to Hillary Clinton for a second, guys. Do you think she's going to get indicted?
I don't think I don't think there's ever a way that happens.
You don't think that they're pushing for this not the emails, but for the perjury? You don't think that they're pushing for that?
I don't think they're pushing hard enough. I
agree with that part for sure.
I think there's such a big push by the establishment for her to become president.
I think that it'll be a cold day.
Money.
It'll be a cold day in hell before Hillary Clinton ever puts handcuffs on.
True. I mean, we can all very much assure ourselves that she has already bought and paid for this presidency. I mean,
it appears that way.
Yeah. I mean, the more I remember, when
about it too.
Oh yeah, because I remember when everybody was really announcing their candidacy, and Donald Trump started actually catching some steam. And for all of you out there, I just don't get you, but we won't really get into that part. But when he started catching steam, I know you and I, Scott, had a conversation of, do you think he's really running for president, or do you think he's running a campaign to make the Republicans look so damn bad that there's not going to be a candidate worthy of running against her? Because he was able to capture just enough to where people wanted to vote for him, but nobody could actually sit back and give you a solid answer of why this man should be president. And the more and more you really start to look at everything, the more it's starting to look like he's running his own smear campaign, against himself to really kind of just lock it in the bag for Hillary. Because as of right now, there is a pretty decent split in the country of who's voting for who, but the numbers are starting to slowly but surely, as Trump is just really phoning it in here at the end.
And he's burying himself at every possible.
I mean, it's controlled opposition. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want the job. He doesn't want the job. He's having too much fun being.
And I think initially, I think we had touched on it last week when we had our technical issues, but we had touched on it last week. It's a matter of him. Hey, I was able to do it. I can do this.
This is also a man who, balances his own self-worth by how much money he has. And is he really going to limit?
He actually balances his money by his self-worth. If you saw that,
Yep.
his company value, his business value varies from day to day based on his moods and feelings.
Yep.
So
True story. True story. So, and you have somebody who has that mentality. Do you really think that that's somebody who, because as a president, you're not supposed to have interests in companies. You're not supposed to be CEOs of companies and things like that. Do you really see Donald Trump giving up his own brand? The Trump brand. Do you see him? Do you even see him, turning around and handing that to one of his children, just so he can turn around and go from a man who's making as much as he is now to an annual salary of $250,000?
Yeah,
I
not
don't
gonna
see
happen.
it. At that point, that is, in Donald Trump's world, that's like going from being the 1% down to middle class in the way that he lives his life, because this man is used to making.
He's going to be going
hundreds of millions of dollars.
He's going to be going from 0.1% to 1%.
Yeah,
that's
huge.
That's huge.
That's huge for him.
Well, I mean, the
That's huge for anybody.
0.1%
The only
is
trade-off there would be the ego and power issue, and I think initially he had that. I think that was okay for him. He was okay with the ego, the power that was going to come with it, and I think that's got old. I think that got old for him.
Yeah, true. It's one of those things I can't wrap my head around that, because this is Donald Trump. He has been a figure in the media since I was old enough to still shit on myself and have it be called something that is still dignified because I'm in diapers. This is how long Donald Trump's name has been around.
Right.
And the fact that, you expect this kind of, you expect him to always be the one who's always going for however he can make the most money. The last thing you expect is this person to switch their total life motive, because that's what it is. His whole life is boiled down to, that small loan of $1 million that put him up to where he is now. So you're not going to turn around and see somebody who, for the last 30 years and beyond, has been money turned around to now the people. Right. This man has never been the people. It has been self-serving. He's never going to make that switch.
Although he could realistically make the switch, because if we all believe that the president served the people, that went out the window years ago.
True. At the end of the day, if you really look at what the president is, which is a puppet. That is one of the best puppets you could get out there. He's already looks like a puppy. He's orange. He looks like one of the Muppets.
Here's a concept. What if, every couple years we could have like the coolest and the smartest and some of the most influential people that are in our society? What if we could have them and we could say, hey, look, why don't for like a little bit, maybe a couple years, you come and you give us some advice and you help us with this big thing with government, and that's, what do you think? That sounds reasonable, right?
We've done it, yeah.
Well, that's what the American dream is. That's, that was how our founding fathers set it up, so that every couple of years we could have the coolest, most influential people. But now, it's gotten so corrupt that you have to be this. The whole idea of being president, like the president, that's not a real person, because you have to go the majority of your life and not fuck up anything, like not have even the smallest fuck up, because they put you under a microscope. You can have a couple side steps, but for the most part,
I smoked weed, but I did not inhale. That kind of fuck up.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
guess you could have the big fuck up once you're in office. Then.
Exactly,
Oh, yeah,
but these aren't real people. Like,
no.
Real people change and they grow and they learn from their mistakes. These politicians are some sort of like robots that have planned that their whole life that they're gonna go and they're gonna have power over people.
Yep.
It's you have to start young, because that's when you fuck up. That's when you go and you do fucked up things, and when you're young and you don't think about it, you speed down the road, or you do something reckless, or you throw poop on somebody's doorstep,
Yep.
You know,
Sorry about that, by the way.
oh, yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta say hi, and in other cultures, that's respected. So,
But they're not real people, and you know, being the president, that's not really a job that regular people want. Like, would you want to be the president?
Wow.
no.
I mean, that's not a job that regular people want. So if you look at somebody that wants to be the president, that's kind of disturbing in itself, because it's like, who would want that job? Like, that's insane. Like, what would be the motive? I mean, unless you really, really want to change things, but you know, you see what happens to those presidents
Well, yeah,
and those candidates.
you know, down and to the left, but
Or back into the left.
into the left,
Back
yeah.
into the left, yeah.
But yeah, you know, as you guys have known, you know, I'm on the verge of having a son in any day now.
Any minute
Any
now. Are
minute
you
now.
fucking kidding
Let's
me?
be
Wasn't it any minute
realistic.
now for like the last couple weeks?
No, realistically, she's at, before starting this show, 4-minute contractions apart. We actually spent the last 24 hours in the hospital just to be sent home. Like, we're going to be having a kid this week, most likely. But one of the things that my fiance has said to me is, you know, our child is going to be smart. He's going to grow up. He could be president. And I looked at her and I said, I don't want our child to be an asshole. Like, let's let our child live their life and live it the way that they want to. Let's not gear them to be an asshole because it's what you got to be. I don't want my child to go through its entire life and not have street smarts, because that's what gets a lot of people by. It's not the book smarts.
Yeah,
I don't know the last time that trigonometry got me out of a shitty situation where, you know, dude had me, you know, in an alley. No, but my street smarts told me, oh, this dude's walking down. He looks a little shady. Maybe I should turn my ass around and not go down this.
Or maybe I should, you know, have my keys ready in my pocket to, you know, stab motherfucker.
Right.
You know?
That's street smart. That's because because we've made decisions in our life where, yes, they might have not have.
We know to avoid shady white people.
Yeah.
We know to avoid those people.
The last thing I want is my child to become a shady white person. That
We
people
know
are
to
supposed
avoid these
trust.
people. Just so that we're not, so that people don't. We're talking about shady white people in the alleys and stuff.
Yeah, shady white people.
Yeah, we're gonna avoid those people.
Absolutely. So, but I mean, you're right though. I mean, any parent that is sitting there saying they want their child to grow up to even be a politician is really sitting there saying they want to structure their child's life so much that they don't actually get to live one.
Right.
To really go the political route, in my personal opinion, you're fucking your own life experience, because there's so much that you can't do as a person, because if it's found out on that background check that you have done certain things, you're removed from even being possible inside the political realm.
But once you're in a family where you have that ability to be insulated,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at the Kennedys.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Eddie had some issues. I mean, you don't just like wreck your car and kill a girl and still become the longest running senator.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's some issues there.
Yeah.
But for that to even happen, what kind of insulated life is that?
Right.
I mean, he's geared for that one thing.
I mean,
Mhm.
some of the best things in life, you know, come from, you know, asking for forgiveness instead of asking for permission. I mean, if you don't have some of those experiences, I don't know if you can even really be a real person. You know, I'm not saying that, you know, goody two shoe kids out there that
And
not
I'll
like
speak
any
up
of
for the
those.
goody two shoe kids.
Not that any of those kids are watching this podcast or whatever. Because
So there's none of you out there that could be offended at the moment.
They've all gone to bed at 8:00.
but you know, sometimes it's helpful for life experience to get your hands dirty, and I think, you know, where we're all coming from is you can't be a well-rounded person and lead people if you don't have that. But the way politics has come, everything's so negative. Attack, add this, attack, add that. That at the end of the day, with all that negativity, it's just.
I know I've gotten some weird looks from people when I say this, but and just because I think, yes, the man has done enough to demonize himself outside of Russia, but inside of America is demonized hardcore. But personally, I'd rather have somebody running our country who's more along the lines of a Vladimir Putin, who you can look at and go, okay, this man is real. But he's a real person. I mean, don't get me wrong. You still have the things where he's going around, and saying
genocide and all.
Yeah, you've got the genocide, and you also got the photos of him riding bears and bullshit like that, and wrestling bears shirtless and whatnot. That kind of thing.
Didn't he kill? I could be fucking this up, but didn't he kill the previous leader once he took power? Didn't he kill him?
No. He may have sanctioned the hit that killed him.
Yeah,
that hasn't been proven.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, yes, there is plenty that you can sit there and you go, wow, Vladimir Putin is one fucked up individual. But when you turn around and you go from Vladimir Putin and you just take a look at the entire U.S. government and you turn around and look at that, you go, well, they're really kind of the same side of the coin. The only difference is that you have our president who steps up and he is given a speech by a speechwriter, and this is what he's supposed to say. He goes off of it. Somebody's reaming his ass out at the end of the day. He's got a teleprompter.
He is a great teleprompter reader.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Hold on. Can I just say something? Okay. When Obama was running, the news media vilified that he only reads from a teleprompter. That's all he can do. And then a few weeks ago, I saw this clip where one of these talking heads was like, Donald Trump's cleaning up his act. He's, reading from a teleprompter. Same fucking guy. Same fucking news guy.
But I see the media actually, and you said that they vilified Obama for reading from a teleprompter. The news media tried to push the fact that he was this great speech giver. And then people realized, hold on, he has great speech writers. And yes, he's good, giving good speeches.
He's charismatic. I gotta give him that. Everybody wants some of that sexy dark Obama chocolate.
Let's be real though. One of the most charismatic presidents that we've had besides Obama was John F. Kennedy.
Absolutely.
Kennedy himself had speechwriters, wrote or read from speeches. They're charismatic off of the message that they're trying to give.
They getting up there improv?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but if I'm going to go in front of the entire country and I'm going to speak, I'm not going to go up there and try to wing it off the dome because 90%.
Give me a place. So give me a problem.
So what you're saying is you're not taking a copy of this podcast as your presidential platform speech.
Oh God, no! Oh God, no! Because I mean, I would walk up there.
Hold on, I stand by everything I say.
Well, I do too. But could you imagine like the way that we speak here? You walk up and you go, "My fellow Americans, do you see this shit going on right now? It's fucked up, and you guys need to stop." Because that's how I would step up there as
Donald
president.
Trump last week?
Oh yeah, that's Donald Trump all day. And what's great is that they sit there and they've got no problem with Donald Trump reading off a teleprompter. But let's be real, Donald Trump kind of looks at his teleprompter, kind of holds his hand up here like this, and he's like, "Yeah, but." And then you got the guy, and it's like that this is not written into his speech. There's somebody in the back going, like sitting back, like I am not putting him on my resume.
Didn't he fire his campaign manager recently?
Yeah, his speechwriter is out there, in the back stroking out every time this guy takes the stage.
I wonder how many he's been through, because I know if I wrote a speech for somebody and they went up there and eventually you're going to get credited for that. And they go up there and they say that speech, and that's what they're doing on national television. You're going to go,
"Can you take my name off of this, please?"
You're like, I'm going to be the next one to resign.
Well, right after he resigns, he's writing a speech for Melania, and we saw how that turned out.
I want to know who's writing Sarah Palin's speeches, because Jesus.
No, Sarah Palin is the prime example of why you don't go up and do it off the dome, because that's what she does.
The splody heads are sploding. Like,
I can see Russia from my house.
like, what the fuck did you just say?
What?
Like, it's like, what the fuck did you just say, woman?
I mean,
this is the governor of Alaska. I'm a little scared to go visit.
Was I the only one who kind of was really excited, then instantly depressed when she sat there and was like, "I want to debate Bill Nye over the climate change." And then it was like, "Oh, she's gonna get roasted," and then she's like, but I'm gonna do it with videos of him speaking. It's like, oh, because you don't want to get owned because you're dumb as shit.
Yeah.
Like everybody stepped back was like, this is gonna be the biggest verbal smackdown that you can.
I mean,
watch.
since Bill Nye and Ken Ham.
Yeah, and realistically, I was giddy. I know I sent Scott a link to that. Like,
Yes,
dude,
like,
have you seen that?
please.
He's like, yes, and it needs to happen.
Please, oh
Yes.
please, oh please, oh please, if there is a God.
Yes, let this happen. And luckily for her, somebody stepped back and went,
You don't know what you're
no.
talking about.
It's just
No.
look. This is cute and all, but
You don't want to go against him.
no.
Like, I know you think he's just somebody who had a children's show, but in reality, this man's gonna own you on this topic.
You know who I'd really love to see go into a debate?
Hmm.
Donald Trump and Neely D.
Oh
Neely
my
deGrasse
God.
Tyson.
That would be fantastic. Honestly,
Even I'd watch that.
Yeah, just-
Honestly,
oh, God.
the two people I want to see on a stage at the same time debating is Donald Trump and Jon Stewart. I would
Oh.
pay so much money to see that. Because I mean, if any of you have had the luxury of watching the Jon Stewart and Bill O'Reilly debate,
Oh.
it is fantastic. Because those two are really equally matched in the sense of how they
Of wit.
approach
Of
wit
wit,
and how
yeah.
they approach things. If you put someone like Donald Trump up against somebody like Jon Stewart, you're gonna actually finally see what
Kind of person
What
Donald Trump is.
right, because that is a man who will not keep his cool. There is no
Oh.
way that he can,
That's
especially
5 minutes.
as he realizes that he is just getting owned. It's going to go from facts to just straight attack. And
I
you'll
would
see who
I would
wins.
almost bet that Stewart would. I just can't believe I just said Stewart.
Stewart. Oh my
I can't.
god!
That was a total.
We're gonna edit that.
I wouldn't be surprised if Jon Stewart. I said Stewart because it was a combination of John and
Your ass
Stewart.
has ended up on the Daily Show at some point.
I bet you. I wouldn't be surprised if he hid some giant fake hands in his, like that episode of Always Sunny with the fake hands. Can you tell that these aren't my real hands? Like he just starts like pointing and starts making Donald Trump like hand gestures with giant fake hands.
But I think it would be entertaining. I mean,
Oh my
'cause that's
God,
that's
yeah.
all you're gonna be watching that for. It's not two people
Yeah.
who are equally matched by any stretch.
I mean, it's not going to be wildly informative, but it's definitely going to be awesomely entertaining.
Absolutely.
Infotainment.
I can tell you at this point, since I probably was 14 years old, have refused to spend money on anything pay-per-view. I would pay to watch that. I wouldn't find a way to stream it for free. I would actually turn
take
around and
my money.
yeah,
Yes.
take it, please. I will start donating to this now. Like, let's do this. Let's get this
Kickstarter.
going. Yeah.
Let's take the Kickstarter.
GoFundMe.
You throw up a petition online, petition.org, Jon Stewart versus Donald Trump.
And we only
Let's
have to
throw
go a
in
half
Hillary.
hour tops.
I mean, if you want to throw in Hillary just as a little, icing on
Oh,
the
my
cake,
goodness.
Now, have they had debates yet against each other, Trump and Hillary?
No, they haven't.
Are they
No,
going
not-
to?
they're
I
going to
don't
have
believe
to.
so.
No, they're the presidential debates. Absolutely. There are 3 massive presidential debates that will happen before the November.
Are they scheduled yet?
They're not scheduled yet, but we've had them every single time.
Right.
There's no way that
That's gonna be bad. That's gonna be like a head-on collision of trains. Like you,
Oh, yeah.
you don't want to watch, but you can't look away.
Yeah,
like,
that is 2 equal car accidents that you can't stop looking at, and somebody just had the ability to pick them up and throw them at each other. Like, that's what you were going to get to watch, because they're going to go up there and simultaneously lie so hardcore and go. It's not going to be information based. It's going to be attack based, and it's going to be really interesting to watch. And even still, I bet you we're going to get to November, and still by the end of that, we're still going to have absolutely no fucking idea
what
Donald Trump's
stands
running,
for.
yeah, what his campaign is running on. I mean, I really feel like at this point now,
didn't he?
America's at the point where they're dumb enough that any person is going to be able to step up and go, listen, we're going to give you jobs, and we're going to give you the best job that you can possibly ever have. And how are we going to do that? We're going to do it by doing it. And people are going to go, They're going to be
Jobs.
happy about
Awesome.
jobs. Yes.
Because at the next rally, you're going to see Trump for jobs.
Yeah.
You're just
Like-
going to see that.
And what does he do? He goes, okay, check. Next one. Wall. Yeah, I can do wall because that covers our foreign policy. Wall.
We're going to build a wall.
We're going to build a wall.
What isn't he asked? Like, didn't he promise somebody that if they helped him with his, that he would let them be in charge of all policy, foreign and domestic? Like, that's your entire job, dude. What
Wasn't that his VP who
yeah,
stepped
his
down?
vice, yeah.
Yeah, he was basically like, listen, I get this, and yeah, you're gonna be basically in charge of
Everything.
It was everything foreign.
I'm pretty sure he said foreign and domestic.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
so
a little scary.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, wait a second. So
I'm okay with being the puppet.
yeah, that's basically him standing up and going, hi, I'm Donald Trump. I'm running to be your puppet. This guy, I'm not going to tell you anything about what his actual ideas for the United States are, but he's going to run with me. He's going to be in charge of everything. Don't ask him questions, though, because I don't even know the answers.
I saw the Donald Trump truck the other day, the same one that was outside of that Bernie rally. It was parked over there at the bike night down there. And it was the whole Bikers for Trump thing, which doesn't make any sense to me. I wanted to graffiti on that thing so goddamn badly. I mean, a big ass fucking mobile Donald Trump, like, oh, just let me put an iPad Trump mustache on him or something, just please.
Or just
Like-
just nice little Hitler stash.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think that would be the most relevant piece of graffiti you could ever see. Just a little,
And
and
see,
you're done.
Donald
You're done.
Trump
You can do that walking by, just done. And you are making the biggest political statement I think anybody can make right now.
Can we do that
Well,
to
hold on.
Can we do that to Hillary,
The problem with doing that to his picture is people won't know if it's done by somebody that's for him or against him.
That's very true.
Yeah, they'll have no idea.
Valid point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That could go either way.
yeah, because I mean, he's obviously been backed by the white supremacist movement. So, and he's he had the ability to speak out against him, and his whole entire thing was, well, I really don't have much to say on that topic. Like, wait a second, you have white supremacists who any other president or any other nominee would be like, listen, don't really find hate speech or hate in general as something that can be tolerable. And he's on the line of, I don't really got much to say about this topic. I mean, okay for him for being smart enough to go, I'm not going to really, I've already demonized enough of this country. I can't afford to demonize the entire, because at that point, if you turn around, you demonize, Hispanics, or basically any Muslim or any sort of, basically anybody coming into this country
Right.
that wasn't born
if you're
here.
not an American, born, bred, and probably Catholic. I mean, I don't know what he's going for. I mean,
Yeah.
he's against Muslims. Maybe he's for Lutherans. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
But, if you've got somebody who has gone that far, maybe he's like, well, they're born here and they're white. I can't afford to piss them off too, or who really is voting for me.
NRA. Yeah, the NRA.
Yep, the NRA. He's got the white supremacists and NRA. But what's crazy is even when you sit here, we make this many jokes about Donald Trump. At least I can sit here and say we all know somebody who's actually going to go to the polls, and multiple people who are going to go to the polls and vote for Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
We can sit here and say we know people who are doing this, but can you sit here and honestly tell me somebody who's voting for Hillary Clinton?
One.
I know one. Yeah, actually one.
Yeah.
One. How is she winning states? How is she winning every?
Okay, I've seen the electoral maps from 2000 2008. It's pretty much the same way Obama won those states.
Yeah.
The maps that I saw, pretty good, reference material, and they are all red. And somehow, Obama still won.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, honestly, if we all didn't get a really good wake-up call in 2000 of the fact that our votes really mean shit, this would be that final driving it home that honestly, we could all not show up to the polls. Every single person could not show up to the polls, and they're still just going to put in who they want to.
I think in 2000, I think people still don't realize what happened in 2000. I really do. I think there's some people out there that have no idea that it went to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
I really do. I believe my parents they're probably one of them, two of them, that they don't even realize that happened.
Yeah, honestly, most people that I know, the most they know about what happened in 2000 comes from television, and not even the sense of, informative, television, but just sitcoms. You have things like How I Met Your Mother making jokes about hanging chads, and that's where they know hanging chad comes from, because they got a 5-second explanation on a television show of what it is, or Futurama jumping in and making a joke about it here or there. And a lot of people, especially Scott and my age, that's where they get their information, because once that stopped, once Bush was declared winner of Florida and everything came back, everybody stopped talking about it. The people didn't stop, but the media did. The media just shut it right the hell down, because the last thing they were going to do is go and just hone in on the fact that, Gore should have been the president of the United States.
The media messed up with the Dewey Truman thing. They weren't about to duplicate their mistake.
Oh yeah.
But before, you used to be able to pick your president if you lived in Ohio or Florida.
Oh yeah.
But now 2016, Pennsylvania is considered a swing state. So we get to pick the president, you guys.
That's awesome.
Swing state.
I've seen swing vote. Our vote counts.
Oh yeah. Did you see that Trump actually went and although he is trailing by, I think it's 11 points right now in Pennsylvania, which once again, we all live in Pennsylvania, but we all know one person.
I know a whole group of people, the Bikers for Trump people. And I just want to,
we know.
Well, as an aside, I don't get that Bikers or Trump. I thought Bikers didn't like authority. I mean, Donald Trump is an authoritarian. He's promised more power to the police. I don't get it.
I think it's more. I don't even think it's for Trump though. I think it's against Hillary.
I think it's just Bikers for anybody that's loud and obnoxious.
Right, and that's probably true.
But that's what each one is running right now. That's what they're running their campaigns on.
Do you
want Donald Trump? Donald Trump's.
There's nothing wrong with Bikers.
No,
I just don't understand this particular facet of
their
thought. I just don't get it. I love the Bikers are cool, especially all the ones around here. But I just don't understand it, guys. What are you doing?
I still think it's anybody against Hillary.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
never Hillary.
But Hillary is basically running the same kind of campaign.
Absolutely,
guys. We don't want Donald Trump, so vote for me. Right. And that's what these debates are going to be.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think a lot of this is based on spinning this false narrative. They have to everybody's got to spin this false narrative, this fake story that makes them look good. Like Donald Trump is saying now his big thing is all the media is attacking me. Well, how the fuck do you think you got so much traction to begin with? The fucking media.
Yep.
You know it as much as anybody else knows it, that even if they're talking bad about you, they're still talking about you. And now we're talking about you.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's just he knows the game, and he tries to play this, I'm the victim, please stand up for me. And then everybody gets all riled up because he knows that a lot of people have a dissatisfaction with the media. So he's playing on that.
Right, and I think he's doing a hell of a job at it.
Yeah.
But like you said earlier, Matt, he's at this point, it almost seems like he's phoning it in.
Oh,
he's had enough of this now. He's done with this big experiment that I proved I can do it. I proved I can win the nomination. The only thing left is president. And once I'm elected, I can't back out.
Yeah.
And I think he's smart enough to know that. And you're going to see this inevitable slide of this popularity that is just you can't explain it.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know what though? At this point, we all sit here and we say, yeah, once he gets president, he can't back down. Well, up until a couple of years ago, we thought the same thing about popes. Once they're popes, they can't back down.
That's very true.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he became president and just stepped down the next day. Like, I won. Ha, got it. Bye.
Well, and I think this is really
Might be a good thing for the country.
I think this is a no-risk scenario for him. If
Oh,
if he wins, then he gets control policy and his bank accounts stay good. If Hillary wins, she controls policy, keeps the rich people happy. His bank accounts stay good.
Wait, are you telling me the Democratic Party is not for the common people? Really? Huh. That's what I've been hearing this whole time.
The Republican Party.
Yeah, that would be the one. Yes.
This it's the fake, like I keep using this word because I like it, but the fake left-right paradigm.
It's a circle.
Yeah, it's a circle.
It's not
It's a
left,
circle
right?
jerk. It's a circle jerk.
Circle jerk.
Let's
yeah.
be honest. I mean, at the end of the day, once they elect whoever that they're going to put in, they all of them from all walks sit down and have themselves a nice big dinner to congratulate
Absolutely.
themselves that they all put on another big farce for the American people.
Right, and we sit there and go, hey,
Yeah.
hey, my person became president. Well,
Yeah.
not in the last 16 years we haven't, but anyway.
We feel like we've won. You know.
And
half
what
the
have you really won?
You've won another shitty figurehead that's going to do absolutely nothing that you want. In
And
this
on
country.
top of that, you got the next few months running up to the election, businesses practically shut down, hinging on the word of the president.
Mhm.
I mean, the slowdown in the economy, no matter what you promise.
I mean, even to build on that, other things that are affected, like the Supreme Court, we're still absent a person on the Supreme Court, aren't
Yep.
we?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and that's because the Republicans refuse to nominate somebody on an election year because of tradition. No, it's because you want your guy to get in there and then nominate who you want.
Yeah. So
it really is just a continuation of the status quo, because anything to either side of that would threaten their power.
right. Absolutely.
And,
I agree.
I
with you.
mean, and we're getting late, and just to end it, I forgot who said it, but the best way to control a thought process of a bunch of people is to limit the scope of acceptable opinion. You limit the scope of acceptable opinion, but within that, you provide a very lively debate. Like the acceptable opinion is we need cops, we need police officers because they keep us safe. But within that they say, well, what about use of force? And what about they have a little lively debate within that, but nobody's actually outside of the box questioning, do we really need this system? So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good spot for us to end, and actually a nice thing to remember to pick back up on next week when we see you guys. So, as always, this is Matthew Taylor of Carbon County Cop Block.
I'm Scott Marshall of the Oath Accountability Project.
And I'm Bill Godin.
Also, shout out to Rick Gonzalez of Carbon County Cop Block. Thanks for your help with tech support. Sorry about our Facebook viewers. Still got some tweaking. Well,
We're gonna figure that out.
We are the best at having technical issues. So
Absolutely. And then, guys, why don't you go ahead and come hang out with me on Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. on LRN.FM, or you can also find me at copblock.org/show for an awesome episode of Cop Block Radio, along with Severin Freeman of Lehigh Valley Cop Block.
that's a good show.
So, everybody, make sure you tune in next week on the 22nd to come say hi to us three, and have yourselves a good night, safe week. We'll see you then.
See you. Bye.